This is CBC Here and Now.
Memorial University's faculty strike enters day 10, but good news could be on the horizon.
So if the willingness is there, reaching a deal is not that far apart.
If you've dreamed of wearing the RCMP Stetson or the iconic red serge tunic, there's never been a better opportunity. I'm Terry Roberts. We'll have that story coming up.
And let's make this a big thing, Winter Carnival, bring in the whole community. And of course, when the city took it over, it was really great.
The Corner Brook Winter Carnival is back and celebrating a big milestone this year. We'll take a look back at its history. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin in St. John's, where police are investigating a death they say is suspicious. A 22-year-old man died in hospital last night after the RNC was called to help someone with serious injuries in the area of Mayor Avenue and Newtown Road. Here and Now's Mark Quinn has the details.
These homes on Mayor Avenue, just above an auto repair shop, are at the center of the RNC's investigation. At the back of 113 Mayor Avenue, a tent is in place for investigators, including an RNC major case management team. Police were called to this neighborhood around 5 o'clock yesterday evening. They found a badly injured man. He was taken to hospital, where he later died. Police aren't saying how the man was injured or if someone else injured him. Last night, a large area around these homes and part of Mayor Avenue was cordoned off for a police search with trained dogs. The RNC is working with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner to determine the 22-year-old man's cause of death. Police say they don't believe there's any risk to public safety at this time. The RNC is asking anyone with video of the area yesterday afternoon and evening to share it with them. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the strike by Memorial University's Faculty Association has entered its 10th day, but the two sides are back to talking. Picketing profs and faculty remained upbeat today despite the ever-changing winter weather. MUNFA representatives say the harsher weather has only brought the striking staff closer together. The two sides met yesterday and then went back to the bargaining table again this afternoon. Talks concluded for the day around 5:30. Earlier this afternoon, the president of MUNFA told CBC News that he's hopeful they'll have some good news to share soon.
I was hopeful we will reach a deal yesterday, but it was just didn't happen. But I'm optimistic maybe we'll reach a deal today. So if the willingness is there, reaching a deal is not that far apart. I'm not at the table at the room and the negotiation, so I cannot read their faces or emotions, but I would certainly hope so, because it's for the students and for the entire community. It's better if they can finally get the deal done.
And for the first time in 10 days, Memorial's president has spoken publicly about the faculty strike. However, it was in a video that was only sent to staff who are still working at the university. Vian Timmons addressed the employees directly in the 60-second video. Here's part of what she had to say.
Thank you for your tireless efforts to support our students and also to support each other. One thing that is clear is how passionate people are about our university. This is a good thing. When the strike ends, we will have hard work ahead of us to ensure that everyone's voices are heard and that we are united in our efforts to make this university the best it can be, to serve our students, our communities, and beyond.
Well, it certainly isn't as cold as it has been over the last couple of days, or weeks, I should say, even up across Labrador. Overnight lows dipping into the minus teens for the most part. The cold spot was actually Deer Lake. I don't think I've said that so far this season, at minus 22, but we do have some of that milder air though this morning, especially further east, about minus 4 in St. John's. Now, that area of low pressure offshore now, that's what brought some snow. Saw about 5 centimeters in St. John's, about 7 in other parts of the city, but that has been said and done. We are still looking at some freezing drizzle over the next couple of hours, but then that should end as well. Some of that colder air moving right back in across Labrador, but we also saw some gusty winds today about 50 kilometers per hour in St. John's, 54 in Bonavista, and St. Lawrence recorded a gust around 52 kilometers per hour. We do still have some winds out there, sustained at about 39 kilometers per hour in St. John's, but that should end. However, we will see some wind chill values in the minus teens tonight. I'll get into the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a crossbow and some arrows were some of the items the RCMP seized when officers showed up at a home in Clarenville yesterday. Police arrested two men, a 44-year-old and a 36-year-old, and they're facing drug-related charges. The RCMP say they also found cocaine, crack cocaine, oxycodone pills, and cash during the search. And they also seized shotgun bullets and an imitation handgun. Well, the short-staffed RCMP in this province is looking for at least 30 new officers, and the force is pulling out all the stops to try to fill its ranks, including the relaxing of a long-standing rule about where a member will be posted once training is complete. Here now's Terry Roberts has that story.
It used to be that once you completed training at the RCMP depot in Saskatchewan, you waited for your marching orders, wherever in Canada you may be needed. But if you're from this province and you're interested in joining the RCMP, but you want to work closer to home, well, the chances of wearing a Stetson like this are better than ever.
We can't commit to it, we can't guarantee it, but if somebody's from here and they want to come back here, they can ask for it to be considered to be brought here.
It's generated a lot of interest for people who want to serve and work in their home province.
Their life as a civilian is over.
Like most workplaces, the National Police Force has a labor shortage. The pandemic severely interrupted recruiting and training programs. The stress and strain of the job is thinning the ranks and making potential recruits think twice. The result, an 8% vacancy rate among the RCMP in Newfoundland and Labrador, higher than the national benchmark of under 6%. It's forced leaders to get creative to ensure public safety and to bolster its ranks.
It is probably the #1 discussion point that we have.
And for the first time in a few years, the unit has a dedicated recruiting officer.
I'm getting a lot of interest right now.
One of the outcomes of the pandemic is that people want to stay closer to home. So the RCMP is hoping to use that to its advantage when it comes to recruiting.
We do have a number of vacancies, and until we get those filled, those are things that we can consider.
The RCMP operates 42 detachments in the province, nearly 500 officers, policing 80% of the landmass, 60% of the population, at a cost to taxpayers of more than $90 million each year. It's a challenging job, multiple moves throughout a career, exposure to traumatic events. But they tell me here it's rewarding work, with a base salary that can reach 6 figures within 3 years.
If you're looking for excitement and adventure, we're hiring, and we have a job for you, and we have a uniform that fits you. So
a lot has changed as the RCMP modernizes and becomes more inclusive. You'll see things like facial hair, ponytails on male officers, tattoos, and if you wear the uniform of another police service, the RCMP welcomes you as well. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
In Ottawa today, Premier Andrew Furey signed the beginnings of an agreement with Nunavut to strengthen their ties. Leaders of the two governments signed a memorandum of understanding. They say it will allow them to work together on future developments and opportunities that emerge in the Arctic region. And they both stressed the common issues they share because of their northern geography.
This MOU will allow us to work together to diversify our economies in areas like fisheries, tourism, and really modern internet connectivity. Together, we could strengthen our skilled labor force by participating in education and training that is relevant and accessible to our remote and Indigenous communities.
When I showed up at the First Minister's table, at the Premier's table, I knew I had a friend in PJ. It went beyond the cordial and the colleagues. It was an immediate friendship. And it's because we share so many of those challenges together. In fact, PJ and I have more in common than my Atlantic cousins. The complexities and opportunities of Labrador are equally reflected in the challenges that you face. Historic, cultural, reconciliation, all of which are priorities of our government.
Well, still with politics, the opposition parties are weighing in on the federal-provincial health care deal tonight. Premier Andrew Furey was in Ottawa yesterday, where provinces were presented with the federal government's $200 billion plan to fix the system. $100 million of that will go to Newfoundland and Labrador immediately, a 20% increase over last year. Now, that's not as much as Furey was looking for, but he says the good news is that federal health care money in the future won't be based on population. He calls that a big win. Well, today the provincial opposition has a different view.
In the detail here, the Premier touts this as a great deal for Newfoundland and Labrador, but we don't see any evidence that that's going to happen. We've said it over the last number of months that whatever approach is to be used in Newfoundland and Labrador in the partnership has to be built on the principle that we need a made in Newfoundland and Labrador solution to healthcare.
Will it be enough to attract the workers back into the hospital? Will it be enough to open up the long-term care beds so that people who are currently occupying acute care beds in the hospital can move into long-term care facilities where they're probably going to be where they should be? Is it going to enough to reduce the wait list currently of people without a doctor?
Well, still with health care, some concerned residents of Bonavista took to the streets again today. It was another weekly protest over the state of health care in that area. Residents are frustrated with services being dropped at their town hospital. The emergency room in Bonavista has just been closed for a week, and it's set to shut down again this weekend.
To me, like they say, oh, everybody's out about mental health. This is not out mental health. This is putting everybody in a position where nobody knows where to turn. Like, you're afraid to go out through your door. Like, if you fall down, you got to get an ambulance to go to Clarendon. It's an awful feeling. I mean, I've lived here all my life, and I've never seen it like this, where you had your hospital closed.
So now we have 9 patients on dialysis, and most of them are 3 times a week. Days when there's no doctor and no nursing practitioner, they have to travel out of town. And it's, you know, they need their dialysis to live.
Now to the West Coast, where people are gearing up for the Corner Brook Winter Carnival. The 50th anniversary of the event is this month. The carnival skipped some of the snowy fun over the pandemic, but it's returning with a full schedule. Here Now's Troy Turner takes a look back at the carnival's history.
The carnival has been a winter mainstay on the West Coast almost every year since its inception. It all started back in 1964 as a ski carnival. The idea came after some locals took a trip to a Quebec ski hill.
They had après-ski parties and torchlight skiing, fireworks, all kinds of great things. And it was a really enjoyable weekend. So when we came back, we said, you know, let's try and see if we can't duplicate this on a small scale, maybe just for a day or so or a weekend. At Marble Mountain.
The event took off, and the ski community here in Western Newfoundland helped it grow.
By '66, the thing had progressed to a weekly event and included such things as a German night, a Swiss night, costume skiing, all kinds of interesting things. Of course, races were a big thing too. And it was a great fun.
Every good event needs a figurehead. The committee found their inspiration in the Lansom Meadows North site, which was newly discovered at the time.
So we were looking for kind of a mascot that we could have as symbolic of the ski area. So someone came up with the idea, well, why don't we get Leaf the Lucky? Anyway, we got someone to draw a cartoon character. We had a flag made and all this kind of stuff. And we had a ski parade, and we went down to City Hall. They raised a flag, and it was, you know, a great bit of fun.
As its popularity grew, the need to expand beyond Marble was evident. So, in the early 1970s, the event moved into the city.
We felt to do justice to the carnival now, and a lot of more interest had come along in Corner Brook, that maybe we should spread our wings and let's make this a big thing, Winter Carnival, bring in the whole community. And of course, when the city took it over, it was really great because it got the whole community involved. I mean, every church had a bun fight, Legion had special things, and people put on special entertainment, the Arts and Culture Centre. It was really a community effort. But of course, none of us at the first of it ever thought it would become anything like it.
This year's Corner Brook Winter Carnival kicks off on February 17th. Bob McLeod is living out of the province these days. He says he's proud to have played a role in its inception, and he doesn't rule out attending another Corner Brook Winter Carnival again in the future. Troy Turner, CBC News, Corner Brook.
I'm from Nigeria and I live in Canada, and I am a black change maker.
Well, coming up, you'll meet our first change maker from our series that tells the stories of black leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and teachers on the East Coast.
Well, temperatures today in eastern portions of the province anyway, hovering around the 0 degree mark, but that is dropping from here on out. We'll get into the full forecast details coming up.
And the scenes coming out of Turkey and northern Syria continue to upset people around the world. Tonight, we'll get reaction from some former residents of northern Syria who are living in St. John's. That's coming up later in the show.
while I was doing my irradiation. My photography actually was my coping mechanism.
The crow was flying by Signal Hill and he had an egg in his mouth.
There's a bit of tension there sometimes, but I'm becoming very good at diffusing that.
I find black and white, it draws your attention into what's happening and you can kind of capture the emotions a little bit more.
You know, there are lots of things going on, chances for you to capture moments that people love to see.
This weather forecast has been brought to you by Newfoundland and Labrador Tourism. Whatever you're up for this winter, discover experience packages at winterupnl.ca.
It was a chilly, blustery day in St. John's today.
Yeah, it was. It was not, I mean, temperatures have been warmer than they have been, though, for the last couple of days, that's for sure. Yeah, hovering around the 0-degree mark. Let's take a look at where we were across the province, though. Warming up quite dramatically in Deer Lake from what you were last night anyway. High of -6. This afternoon, and you can see some of that milder air up across Labrador as well. Minus single digits, the story for those of you along the coast through Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and quite mild for Lab City anyway, compared to what it has been over the last couple of weeks. That's for sure. Lab City's hovering around -10 today. Now, taking a look at what's going on weather-wise, area of low pressure is departing. It's taking some of that wind along with it, and then we do have some of that colder air moving in back up across Labrador, especially in the west, and then we have some flurries on the west coast as well today. But take a look at the temperature difference from yesterday, between 5 and 8 degrees for the most part. A little about 3 degrees warmer in Cape Race and then up across Labrador as well. Most of you are seeing somewhere between 6 and 13 degrees warmer, except in Lab City, where that temperature now is down 7 degrees, and that's because you're down to -18. As I said, some of that colder air starting to move back in. Nain around -12, and we still have a wind chill pretty much across the board, feeling more like -9 in St. John's at the moment, and not quite as you head towards the west coast, because you're not really seeing much wind. But just taking a look at the satellite right now, you can see that area of low pressure departing, and if I zoom in a little bit, we do have those flurries still on the go for the west coast. And not a whole lot showing up on the radar for eastern Newfoundland, but we are seeing some freezing drizzle, and that will be the story over the next couple of hours, next couple of hours, and maybe even a few flurries in the mix as well. But that temperature will continue to drop pretty much across the board. The wind's not quite as breezy tonight, but out of the northwest between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, and then down to the -double digits, especially up across the northern peninsula. You're down to -16 tonight in St. Anthony, and then across Labrador, down into the -20s for the most part. Nain, you should hover around at -18. Now, taking a look at the wind chill as we head through the night tonight with those 20 to 40 kilometer per hour winds, those wind chills will be into the -teens pretty much across the board, except along southern areas of the island along the south coast. Not much for you. St. Albans, for example, only feeling a wind chill around -7. But up across Labrador, your wind chill's still going to drop, though, even though you're going to be into the -20s. It'll be feeling like the -30s for the most part, and that will generally continue as we head into the afternoon on Thursday. Taking a look at the future tracker, not a whole lot to talk about. We do have some onshore flurries, though, in the west coast, which are showing up on the radar at the moment, and that will generally continue as we head through the evening hours tonight. Not a whole lot to talk about up across Labrador either. Just some periods of cloud through the overnight, and then as we head through to tomorrow afternoon, we may see a few flurries across the island, but for the most part, all the action will be again on the west coast in those onshore flurries, and particularly in the higher elevations. And then eventually we'll see some clearing as we head into the evening hours, and those temperatures again overnight into Friday morning. Take a look at that, into the -teens. So we're certainly getting into some of that colder air again as we head into Friday. As far as snowfall amounts go, we picked up about 5 centimeters today in and around the metro area. Not a whole lot after that, though, but on the west coast, again, particularly in those higher elevations, you could pick up between 5 to 10 centimeters of snow by the time we get into tomorrow evening. Tomorrow's temperatures will be a bit cooler than we're seeing today, into the -single digits, about -3 in St. John's, maybe a few peaks of sun in the mix as well. Through central, better chance of seeing that sunshine, but also again, can't rule out the chance of a few flurries. But more numerous flurries certainly on the west coast between -9 and -10, so certainly a bit cooler. Northern Peninsula even more so by a couple of degrees, -13 the story for those of you in St. Anthony. And then we've got some sunshine up across southeastern portions of Labrador into the -teens through the day, and that's the story again across the rest of the Big Land Lab City. You'll hover around -17 for your day. Now the long range forecast, another warm up on the way for parts of the province. I'll get into that coming up.
Well, the CBC Black Changemakers series is highlighting the stories of Black leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and teachers on the East Coast. And each week for the next little while, we'll introduce you to Black Changemakers here in Newfoundland and Labrador. We begin our local series with Joy Chiku Osazawa, who now lives in St. John's. Education is a huge part of her life, but she has faced challenges along the way. Today, she shares her message of perseverance.
Education has changed my life. Coming from a developing nation to Canada with my family, I was able to do that through education. So I would say that education is a life-changing opportunity. Hi, my name is Joy. I am from Nigeria and I live in Canada, and I am a Black change maker. Mom, I have 3 kids and I am currently running a PhD program at the Memorial University of Newfoundland in ocean science specifically. I also co-founded Skynet Education Consults, and we are helping prospective international students and immigrants, get into the school system. In the pursuit of education, I have had to give up being with my family for a while. So when I came into Canada, that was in 2018, I came in alone. I was 4 months pregnant. So I left my daughter, she just turned 1, back home, and my son, who is 2 years old, and my husband, and I was here all the while. So it was not easy settling into a place that you don't know anyone, a foreign place that you've never been in before. It was really tough. So outside of my work, I volunteer and I mentor people, especially young people and women. Again, it's the way it has changed my life, and I want it for every other person, which is why I started to mentor people, especially women and young people, those in the fisheries sector or those in the fisheries profession. So the thing is, a lot of people follow my life and my story on my social media platform, and they like what they see. So I tell them that it is through education. Like I said, education is a life-changing opportunity, and there is joy in just accomplishing that goal or that life-changing goal that you set for yourself. So I'm able to bring in the joy of education by showcasing my life, and people like what they see, and they also want to get that for themselves.
And we'll hear more from Joy Chiku Osazawa tomorrow on Here and Now. And to see more stories from our CBC Black Changemakers series, you can visit our website, cbc.ca/Black Changemakers.
Still now, they're scared of it, because they're saying there is another one coming.
The fear, worries, and deaths are mounting in parts of Turkey and Syria tonight after this week's devastating earthquake. After the break, some people living in St. John's will talk about what they're hearing from back home. Well, we have more now on the earthquake disaster in Turkey and Syria. The number of dead since it happened on Monday has climbed to more than 11,000. And that number is expected to rise as the grueling search for victims continues.
Çek kızım çek. Tamam kızım tamam. Tamam biraz dinle. Yasmin biraz dinle. Tamam. Ayağını bırak abi.
Rescuers are working in freezing temperatures in both countries in hopes of reaching survivors trapped under the rubble. But hopes are fading by the hour for finding more survivors. 9,000 of the dead are from Turkey, and officials in Syria are reporting more than 2,600 people were killed. About 300,000 people are now homeless. Turkey's president visited one of the hardest hit cities today and acknowledged that there have been problems getting relief to victims. Aid to Syria has been hampered by sanctions and war divisions. The 7.8 magnitude quake is one of the deadliest worldwide in more than a decade. And Chris Brown is with our CBC News team in Adana and joins us from the scene of a rescue at a collapsed apartment block.
It's about 150 kilometers from the epicenter of the quake, so not the worst area, but still imagine 20 buildings in this city collapsed, and by any other situation would have been a catastrophe, just dwarfed by the fact that thousands of buildings in this country are now down. So you're looking at one right here. This is it is actually still a rescue operation. It's tempting to say it might be a recovery operation, but no, you can see quite a frantic pace of people using heavy equipment, using shovels, using hose, using buckets, everything that they can to try to dig into what's left of this 10-story building. And just as you were introducing me, everything went quiet here. You could hear a pin drop because they called for quiet because they still clearly believe there are wounded people who can be rescued inside that pile. And so everything went quiet, and then it resumed again and went quite quickly. Now, the last time that happened, it was a sad ending. And this was just 15 minutes ago, they brought out a body in a body bag. So it obviously, you know, they know where people are. They're trying to get to them, but so far they haven't brought anybody out.
Well, the race continues to find survivors after the devastating earthquakes that have killed at least 11,000 people in Turkey and northern Syria. And that number is expected to continue climbing as rescuers desperately dig through the rubble. Now, the shocking footage is disturbing for anyone to see, but especially so for those who have deeper connections to the areas affected. Joining me now are Safa and Jamila Nahat, who are sisters from northern Syria. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
So you've been living in St. John's for 8 years now. How familiar are you with the areas of northwestern Syria that are hardest hit by the earthquakes?
We're from Syria, Idlib.
It's close to Turkey.
And do you still have friends and family in the area?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Do you know if any of them have been affected by the earthquake?
From our family, no, they're fine, they're good, they're safe now. One of my friends, her brother and family dead, and I have friends here. Her uncle just dead with his child, his 2 years, and it was so hard for them.
And it is, so much to wrap your head around. The number of people killed, we're seeing images of children being pulled from slabs of cement. I'm just wondering what goes through your mind when you see that level of destruction.
It's very hard.
It's hard, yeah.
I can't sleep yesterday. Really, I can't sleep. I have a headache. It's very hard.
You can't? Did you say you can't sleep?
Yes, I can't sleep yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
I see a lot of pictures. It's very hard, and babies who born new and his mom dead. It's very hard.
It's hard. We feel it's they're from they're us, and we're here. We can't help them. Yeah, we should help them. We should be with them, and
You feel
I say
helpless.
I want to go to help them sometimes. I want to go to help them.
Yeah,
We want to help. We want to help them.
However, they're not like close to us, but we feel that they are like really close to us. And when you see people and babies, childs, and all that, they like you cannot say anything.
There's been no shortage of strife in Syria over a decade. The war, poverty, refugees fleeing for their lives for years. What do you think it's doing to the civilian population in Syria to have this on top of everything else?
It's hard because they will just put in their mind, and every day or every time they will remind it. So I think it's very hard to them.
Yeah, and it's hard for them. That's like now they don't have anything to leave, no house, no places to go to it, and it's cold. You know, now it's winter and all that. Yeah, there is no places to like be there or to save them.
What would you like to see happen?
We like to see that there's someone getting them that's what they need, and get all the machine that they want, and like to get all the people that's under the building, and to like make it more easier. Like if someone helped them and someone like came, it will be easy by them. Now it's by themselves. They're working by hands. They really need help. Like
Syria needs you. Just help them.
Well, Jamila and Safa Nahat, thank you so much for coming into the studio and sharing your thoughts on this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Well, across this country, members of Canada's Turkish and Syrian communities are honoring the victims of the earthquakes. In Edmonton last night, a mass and vigil to pay respects. About 50 members of Edmonton's Syrian community gathered at St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church to pray. Some of the people there were Syrian refugees who fled the war in their home country years ago. They say they hope the world is paying attention and that national leaders will take action to help in this new crisis.
These people that are in leadership are taking those steps to send money and show that we need to help those people, then that's going to encourage the citizens of Canada and other places to also do the same.
Well, the Canadian government has already committed $10 million in aid to Syria and Turkey. It's also looking at sending medical and search and rescue teams once the United Nations can assess the situation on the ground.
We love to say it's just the beginning because we always are coming up with new ideas.
And one of those ideas was opening a fitness studio in St. John's during the pandemic. Now they're enjoying being recognized for their resilience. That story is next.
Aquaculture pioneers. Back in the early 90s, Doug and Jennifer Keynes were farming scallops in Fortune Bay. Watch for this archival special, Sunday at 11:30 and Monday at 7.
While the COVID-19 pandemic caused issues and closures for many businesses, a fitness studio in St. John's that focuses on group classes has found a way to thrive. Studio Verso opened near the end of 2021 and was recently acknowledged by the Board of Trade for its resilience. The workout space credits its success to its focus on the workout community. Here now's Jeremy Eaton explains.
Studio Verso is a movement studio here in St. John's.
Studio Verso's founder, Emily Hickey, explains that this space is more than a traditional gym.
Bathrooms are non-gendered, so everybody is welcome. Our business is designed with inclusivity at the forefront, so the space itself is accessible. And our language is meant to be inclusive. We intentionally don't have mirrors on every wall. There's a lot of thought behind every element of our space, and it's meant to create a space that is as safe as possible for as many people as possible.
Hickey, along with co-owner Maria Snow, first came up with the idea in the fall of 2020, then opened up a year later. Since then, it's continued to grow.
I think it's been a whirlwind. I think the team we have is absolutely fabulous, that it is so enjoyable when we are working those, longer hours and have those bigger projects. So it makes it enjoyable.
The two have only known business life under COVID-19 restrictions.
We really just would say that if we're opening now, it can only get easier. So it's been a very interesting experience, and for example, this is our first winter that we are open without restrictions from the government. So we're experiencing a big influx of individuals, and it's really lovely to be seeing so many new members coming into our space.
The studio has a sleek design, bright lights, and loud music for its spin and rowing classes. It also offers yoga and a recovery program.
We keep the lights low because not everybody wants to be seen or feel seen during a class. It's really a time to get out of your own head, get into your body.
And it does feel welcoming. And I think we have put such attention into, walking the walk and not just talking the talk. And you can really feel that when you walk in the space.
Each studio has one piece of accessible equipment, which is something the duo also wanted to focus on.
We've been overwhelmed by the response from our community. Our community members are so lovely and positive, and they really emulate the culture that we have built here. People love coming to their class. They look forward to it. It's not very often that people look forward to the gym, so it's lovely to have a clientele of people that are coming here, looking forward to it.
In November, they were recognized by the St. John's Board of Trade with its 2022 Business Resilience Award.
I think it really gave us recognition for a lot of the hard work we put in and the adversity we overcame during such a difficult time. So it felt really nice to be honored for that and recognized for that.
With 2023 in full swing, Studio Verso is adding to its growing list of workout options.
Launching our 5th program, which is called Train. Train is going to be a combination of floor work, mat work, band work, body weight movement as well.
We love to say it's just the beginning because we always are coming up with new ideas and further developing our program. Growth is definitely on the horizon.
Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, there is troubling news out of Laval, Quebec tonight. 2 children are dead and 6 more are injured after a city bus crashed into a daycare north of Montreal. And we want to warn you, some of the details are upsetting.
The bus driver, a 51-year-old man, employee of the STL, has been arrested for careless driving and homicide.
One child died at the scene, the second in hospital. 6 other children are still in hospital but out of danger. An adult is being treated for shock. Dozens of police and emergency vehicles lined the street leading to the daycare after the incident as distraught parents arrived to check on their children. Several sources tell Radio-Canada that the suspect is Pierre-Ny Saint-Armand. The mayor of Laval says the bus driver worked for the city's transit agency for about 10 years and did not have a criminal record. Witnesses say several people had to subdue the driver, who emerged from the bus naked and disoriented before his arrest. Police are trying to determine a motive. Long wait times have been a major concern in Canada's healthcare system for many years. The pandemic only made the delays worse. One proposed solution, which has been getting a lot of attention lately, is moving more procedures into private clinics. It's not a new idea. As CBC's Mike Crawley shows us, a loophole in the Canada Health Act already allows patients to move into the private system if they pay the cost themselves.
Before he got a hip replacement, Mike Johansson found just about any activity brutally painful.
About 70–80% of the time was laying in bed. That was the only way that there really wasn't a whole lot of pain.
It took Johansson 6 months to get a consultation with a surgeon.
Then I was told from that point onwards it was an 18 to 24 month wait.
The prospect of waiting that long in that much pain sent him looking for options.
I had no idea what kind of condition or anything I'd be like after another 18 months of doing it.
Nearly 140,000 people get a hip or knee replacement each year in Canadian hospitals. Wait times vary widely, but 6 months is considered standard. Private surgical clinics around the country are advertising to patients that they can avoid those waits and get joint replacements done in just a few weeks if they pay. Mike Johansson spent more than $23,000 for his surgery.
Best investment I've ever made. I don't look at myself as a person who jumped to the front of the queue. I got out of the queue.
Yes. There's some evidence that paying to get surgeries done more quickly is a growing trend. Johansson came to this private clinic in a suburb of Montreal, where doctors only do joint replacements and only for paying patients.
Our volume at the clinic increased significantly in the last 2 years. There are more and more patients willing to pay for their hip or knee replacement.
The Canada Health Act generally prohibits doctors from charging for medically necessary surgeries, but there are exceptions, including doctors can charge a patient who has opted to travel from another province. This surgeon says more people paying privately won't solve the wait times problem.
What that does is it increases wait times for the rest of the people who are still in the public system because of the loss of resources from that public system into the private system.
Dr. Urbach says governments could shorten wait lists by putting more money into the system. Consider this operating room sitting idle on a weekday morning.
It could be used if the hospital had funding, if this hospital had staffing.
Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, the president of Ukraine is traveling overseas for just the second time since the Russian invasion nearly a year ago. In a surprise move, Volodymyr Zelensky flew to London aboard a Royal Air Force jet. He was greeted by Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and then addressed Parliament.
Thank you, Britain. On behalf of every father and every mother who are waiting for their brave sons and brave daughters back home from the war.
Along with his thanks, Zelensky repeated his call for Ukraine's Western allies to provide fighter jets. There has been no commitment to providing the aircraft, but the UK has announced it will begin training Ukrainian forces to fly NATO's Standard fighters. Zelensky also met with King Charles and has now moved on to Paris, where he's meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Well, time for a look at the long range, and that means having a look at what the weekend has in store. So how are things looking?
Well, we've got a nice ridge of high pressure moving in, but that's also going to bring some of the colder temperatures in right along with it. So let's take a look at the future tracker for your Thursday evening into your Friday. So those flurries are going to continue on the west coast at least through the first half of Thursday afternoon, and then those should taper off. But we've got our next weather maker moving in for your Friday, and that's going to bring some snow to start. It looks like for the southwestern portion of the island, and then eventually that will spread across the island as we head into the afternoon. Some of these showers, or some of these flurries rather, could be heavy at times with that snow. Across Labrador, fairly quiet Friday for you. This will be generally affecting the island, but we should see some sun to start, and then that snow will move in. So temperatures will be well below zero into the -5 to -7 degree range, but along the south coast, we're going to start to get into some of that mixing. So about -1 for Marystown, at least to start. You'll start to see some of that warmer air move in as we head into the overnight period and into Saturday. But then we're looking at the chance of some showers or flurries, the story for the southwestern portion of the island. As far as Labrador is concerned, temperatures will be in the -teens, but we're also looking at some sunshine. So as this area of low pressure tracks to the south for Friday night anyway, that's when we should start to get into some of that mixing. Burin Peninsula, Avalon, and along the south coast as well. Most of us will be into rain by Saturday morning rather, at least for the Avalon. And then in behind that, we do have some flurries. We'll actually see a bit of a break though through the afternoon on Saturday. So maybe even a few peaks of sun, but this will be snow for central and western portions of the island, as well as southeastern Labrador as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. Temperatures, like I said, above zero for the Burin Peninsula and even the Avalon, between 1 and 3 degrees otherwise, just below zero for the island, and then temperatures in the -teens again up across the Big Land, where Nain should be hovering around -22. Long range forecast shows that warm up on Saturday and then back down below zero for your Sunday and Monday. And then central Newfoundland, you're looking at that cool down as well, and some sunshine, it looks like, for your Monday. Now for Labrador, your temperatures generally in the -teens. That's the story through the west as well, with some nice sunshine as we get into Monday. Speaking of Bluebird Day, look at this shot of Grossmore.
Wow.
I love aerial shots on a nice sunny day. Winnie shared this one with us, and if you have any, send them to Facebook, Twitter, or email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, that's a perspective or angle we don't often get to see. That is gorgeous.
That's correct. I love it. Thank you so much, Winnie, for that shot. It was a good one.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you again tomorrow.
Good night.